Hello, and welcome to my Creative Musicianship Development Project presentation. My name is Julia Harmon, and I am a string teacher here in Billerica, Massachusetts. I teach beginning strings in the 4th grade in pull-out lessons, and also I teach 5th grade strings and orchestra in 5th, 6th, and 7th. I do teach 4th grade orchestra, the first year strings, and those are students who've been playing from October to January. So that is what I ended up basing my project on. So my goal was to start experimenting and arranging music for beginning orchestra. So there's not a whole lot of repertoire out there for beginning orchestra for the fairly early players. A lot of it is too complicated, even though it might seem simple to people. But for someone who has started playing in October and we starting in January, it has to be quite simple. I designed my project on focusing on the classical pieces because I think it's very important that the kids play the classics, and also a lot of them are easier to play when you take movie music or something like that. That's more complicated. It sounds cool, but that means it's a lot harder to play. I also wanted the melody to be recognized by the parents and the students, and it had to be a piece that brought good memories. So I had 3 goals for my project. First was to learn the general guidelines for arranging a piece of music for beginning orchestra. My second goal was to learn how to write an effective piano part, and my third goal was to arrange a classical piece of music for the beginning orchestra. So you're probably wondering what piece of music did I end up arranging, and I ended up picking up Pachelbel's Canon. Now a lot of you, I'm sure, don't like the Pachelbel's Canon, especially if you're a cellist like me, but I actually do like it, and I know a lot of people who are not musicians love this piece, and they consider it very classic and classy, and we're asked to play it often when we play in events. So I know it's something that everyone loves. So that's why I chose to use it for my arrangement. So my first goal, beginning for my project, was to make a list of criteria for beginning orchestra pieces. I'm going to go through these fast because I don't have a lot of time. So I had to make sure that the piece was mostly on the A and the D string with the D major scale. This is about what they know by January, are those 8 notes. They could probably know a note here or there besides those two strings, but that is basically what they can do. The rhythms need to be simple with half notes, quarter notes, a couple of 1/8 notes, and the music needs to be divided into short phrases. And the rhythms should not separate into more than 2 different rhythms. If you do that, the students, I've noticed, end up getting very confused. And the last criteria was that the piece needed to be short so that they don't feel overwhelmed when they get the music. So my second goal was to learn how to write an appropriate piano part, and I did this by studying the piano parts of the beginning arrangements that I have that I was looking over for this project. I also have a colleague who's an amazing pianist and has written a lot of musicals and such, and I contacted him about looking over my arrangement and after getting his suggestions, I could make any changes that he suggested. So my third goal was to do the actual arrangement. Now the Pachelbel Canon, as you know, is broken up into a bunch of different sections, and each section has the same harmonic progression that repeats over and over again. So I ended up dissecting the canon and listing each of the sections under able to be played with modification, and not able to be played at all with any sort of modification. So that was good for me to be able to see what I could use in my arrangement. So the process was to decide on a piece. I read about various considerations to take when arranging for string orchestra, And I ended up contacting the composers of all the pieces that I was looking over. I did have one composer get back to me, and he was very supportive and has said that the most important thing is that I write for what I know my students can do. I decided to listen to many recordings of Pachelbel to hear how people have arranged it, and I also contacted some colleagues and asked their opinions on my arrangement, and if I had time to start a second arrangement. So I ended up with two different versions of Pachelbel's canon. My version that was my final version to begin with ended up being a little too complicated for my first year players. So that would be the second year version. I ended up removing two of the eighth note sections, and the product from that was my beginning orchestra version. So I'm going to be playing you the second year version today. And just while you're watching it, the second and third eighth note sections, I think it's G and H, they are removed for my other version. So I'm going to have you guys follow along with the score. These are actually all the instruments that I recorded myself playing over and over again. So the violin, viola, and the cello. I did not play the violin 3-part because that's basically just the double of the viola and the bass. So luckily I have all these instruments sitting around my house. Okay, so that is the Pachelbel's canon. I did start a second arrangement. I'm just going to play you the first couple of pages of it because I'm running out of time. But I also started on the William Tell, very slow William Tell finale. So I'm going to stop that. Anyways, for my self-assessment, I went through all my goals, and I think I did a pretty good job of reaching those goals, learning how to write the piece, arrange the piece, and writing an effective piano part and doing the arrangements. So I really enjoyed this project, and I hope to be able to continue writing music and arranging music for my orchestras. And thank you for listening.